Hello, my fellow Hulk fans. It's Jerry Rasco. I'm back again with you today to talk more about the Incredible Hulk. So today we are going to be looking at Tales to Astonish number 70, which is featuring the ongoing story of the Incredible Hulk. If you're new to the channel, thanks for dropping by and checking this out. You can find we have an entire playlist here that goes back all the way to Hulk issue number 1 and to where we are today. There are also two other active series right now on the channel featuring the Amazing Spider-Man and the X-Men, and you can go check those out also. If you're not familiar, if you're a little confused when I tell you Tales to Astonish, so early on the Hulk solo series from Marvel just apparently didn't do well enough sales wise that the series got canceled and Hulk got moved to this comic called Tales to Astonish, which features two stories. So the book is split in half, and the beginning it featured Giant Man and the Wasp, and then the backup story was the Hulk. That was the case up to issue 68, and now here in issue 70, we have a new feature with the Hulk. So very excited to just take a peek at that. We're not going to be reviewing that half of the comic. This particular series is about the Hulk, but it is interesting that we've got a new co-lead to Tales to Astonish. If you are new, please consider subscribing to the channel. As I mentioned, I have 3 currently active series as of the recording of this video, but I have 3 more series that are in the works, and I'm going to tell you about them here real quick. First, when you subscribe, you immediately and automatically put yourself in the running to win free artwork. That's right, no purchase necessary, completely free, even shipping will be free, but one lucky subscriber, when we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, will win this Incredible Hulk piece. Someone will win this Amazing Spider-Man piece, which celebrates that series that I'm doing. And then we also have the X-Men in their original school uniforms to celebrate that series. But that's not all. There are, as I mentioned, 3 more. So let me show you. I have the artwork ready, and I'm just doing my prep work to get those new series going. So keep your eyes open for that. Number 1, we have the first family of Marvel, the Fantastic Four, where everything started. We're going to start with Fantastic Four number 1 and look at that series. So we have a piece here featuring that team. We also have everybody's favorite Star-Spangled Hero, Captain America. We're going to be looking at that series as well. And then to round it all out, we've got the major team in Marvel. We have the Avengers, and this is the original Avengers lineup. We will be starting with Avengers number 1, featuring Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Wasp, and Ant-Man at the time. So if you're interested in the chance to win free artwork, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Again, completely free. The artwork is free, subscribing is free, but it does help me and the channel out a lot and gets us to 1,000 subscribers even faster. So that all out of the way, thank you so much for that. Let's jump over to the comic, which is why you're here, and let's check it out. Here we go. It's the cover to Tales to Astonish number 70, and as you can see, our new co-anchor of the book is the Submariner, Prince Namor. Coming out, spun out of the Fantastic Four, where he was primarily known at this point. Of course, Submariner has earlier comics history featuring with the Invaders and World War II era stuff. But as far as modern, these Silver Age comics, we are talking about Fantastic Four was primarily where we saw Submariner. Ironically, though it doesn't line up chronologically, but it just happens to be at the recording of this video, I just did our most recent X-Men video, and Submariner is a guest star in the X-Men as well. So it just happened to work out that this particular recording week for me, I had Submariner showing up in 2 different comics. So obviously a very popular character. I'm not going to focus too much on this. Clearly, he's the new guy, and so he's going to get the majority of the space here. Also, it is Submariner and the Incredible Hulk, not the Hulk and Submariner. So Hulk is kind of mitigated down to the bottom of the page. But if you use your imagination and you expand this composition into an entire cover with a Hulk bursting through some sort of a building or a wall, soldiers rushing at him, shooting, major, I'm assuming this is Glenn Talbot, one of his major enemies at this point, rooting the soldiers on to charge the Hulk. This could be a very, very cool cover if it was expanded to fit a whole page. So I like what they're doing. Obviously, this is still Jack Kirby doing these covers. You can tell from a number of things. You can tell from the very thick fingers on the hand. You can tell from the rubble and sort of the linear, angular line work that he uses. We don't see a lot of round shapes in Kirby's rubble. That's just part of what he does. And I did note here, I really like the very bright colors. That yes, it may have been adjusted somewhat from being scanned, but I'm assuming this is. I've seen the actual original. These all colors look pretty good. I think it's just a really good copy. So the really bright colors on the cover really strike me. This green of the Hulk is very, very bright, very vibrant, and I think that's really, really good. It sticks out, really pops off the page, even though it's down on the bottom. So pretty good cover there. Yeah. As I was mentioning, this is a scan. So when we look at these, we are looking at comics that were actually printed at the time, and physical copies of these were scanned by Marvel and put onto DVD to view on your computer at home, which is exactly what we're doing here. But that's how you get all of the original page turns, all the original colors, all the original ads. It is as close as we can get to actually putting our hands on a copy, an actual real 1965 copy of this book. So that's why I really enjoy this format. The art team or the creative team is still the same. We've got Stan Lee writing the story, Jack Kirby doing the pencils, and Mike Esposito under the pseudonym Mickey DeMio as inker. So this is the team we've had for a while. It's a pretty good combination. I think we're really seeing in this issue the two coming together very well. There have been some times here and there where the Kirby line work and the Esposito inks don't always flow together, as well as maybe some other pairings. But in this issue, I feel like they've really hit their stride together. And that's not uncommon. When you put two artists together who are collaborating that way, it takes a little while for each get the feel of the other. So your penciler is going to draw sort of in a vacuum. They just draw, and then the pages go to the inker inks. And then hopefully your penciler gets to see those later and then kind of go, I like this, maybe I don't like this. Or, hey, I see where my inker's strengths are. Maybe they're more organic. Maybe they have a better feel for, hard line work. Maybe they really bring a lot to shadows and rendering. So then you can start to draw to your inker's strengths. So, and then likewise, your inker begins to learn the language of the artist and, begins to identify things like, oh, if he uses sort of this shading, it's really supposed to be all black versus this kind of shading means that it's rendered out with hatching or something like that. So again, I just feel like after a few issues together like this, the two are really gelling at this point. So we start with the splash page. Real quick recap here. There's been a lot going on. We're still dealing with the leader. So the leader, another, if you're not familiar, again, if you're new, another gamma radiation created being where he was exposed to gamma radiation just like Bruce Banner, but instead of getting strong, he got super smart. And he decided to use that for evil, and he has been doing he's kind of been doing two things at the same time. He keeps trying to steal this device from the military, and he wants to capture the Hulk to study him. Well, in the last issue, he gets to do both. However, the Hulk foils his plans, destroys this equipment that he's been trying to steal and sell from the military, and the Hulk tries to escape. He doesn't quite make it. As he's transforming into Bruce Banner, a soldier shoots him, and they proclaim Bruce Banner to be dead. And that's where we start off. So now the military is rushing into the leader's base, which he has fled from, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. the splash page is fine. I don't understand the big plastic Hulk. So the note here says it's a plastic replica the leader studied, which to me makes no sense. You obviously studied the Hulk enough that you could create a exact life-size replica in plastic. What else is there to study? You're not going to understand his skin density, his muscle density, how he transforms, if you understand that. Nothing. It's just a form. So unless you want to just make sure you know, like, to use it to make a suit for him, to make sure clothes would fit, I don't understand the need for it. I would have liked to have seen, this is just me, I would have liked to have seen the door to this lab being kicked open and either Major Talbot, General Ross, or both of them charging in really large, really dramatic, guns drawn, soldiers piled behind them, and the technology around the sides so that you know where they are. I think that makes more sense to me than this giant plastic Hulk. It's the way that it's done is pretty good. Very light line work, and all this little hatching kind of gives it a sense that it's either clear or reflective of some way. So it's done well, and of course all of your Kirby tech, right? So we make a statue, and then we have this weird device on the floor and wires going in very strange angular moves. Like, so let me zoom in and I'll tell you exactly. Like, this to me is quintessential Jack Kirby. We have this device. We have a sphere. A bunch of wires or tubes or something are coming out of this sphere. This one is going to connect to his calf or shin on the side. It could just go straight across and blink and plug in. No, it has to come out, turn 90 degrees, turn 90 more degrees, and then tuck in. That to me is super Kirby. This one here too as well. I want to get it on the other side. So instead of just maybe a loop all the way or something to that effect, or just connecting it in the inside, what's the difference? It's plastic. It goes out 90 degrees and then a big curve around. So very kind of wacky stuff. There's sometimes, to me, there's no rhyme or reason for it, but it just speaks of high-tech gobbledygook, which is perfect. I mean, it just is what it is. You can't describe it. You don't know how it functions because it's so advanced. It doesn't matter, right? Next panel, I like the large panel here. That is really good. The little things, the soldier's helmet, really, really nice. This is an inking, so it's supposed to be that rough metal texture, as opposed to like a smooth helmet. So sort of almost dimply, like wrought iron, if you will. And so these little dash marks with a brush, very, very nice way of doing very subtle texture on the soldiers' helmets. That again, I really do. I think works extremely well. Let's see here. So they find that Banner is gone. His body is gone, and everybody rushes to go find him. And what we find is that Rick Jones was there. Rick Jones, the person that is essentially responsible for creating the Hulk. If he didn't have to be saved from a gamma bomb test exposing Bruce Banner to gamma radiation, there would be no Hulk. So he has been there trying to help Bruce, and he takes Bruce's body and runs away thinking, if I can get him transformed into the Hulk fast enough, maybe he'll survive. And so I like this. This, at first, my thought was, oh, this is a hill, like he's driving down the hill. And I liked that idea. But the cactus is not growing in the right direction. The cactus would always be straight up and down to gravity and to the sun. So your cactus wouldn't grow on an angle. It would grow straight up against that angle, right? Like that. It's always going to be up. So this is what is referred to as a Dutch angle. It's just a idea of we're taking a scene that would be like this, flat on the earth, truck driving across, and we tip it, and it does exactly what you want it to do, which is it ramps up the drama. This truck, because of that angle going downhill, if you will, looks downhill. One, it moves our eye from the panel to the next panel, which is perfect, and it gives a sense of speed. He's rushing to try to save Bruce Banner. And the fact that my first thought was he's going downhill at an angle is exactly what you're trying to accomplish with this illusion of speed. You're giving a psychological sense of speed when you can't draw speed in a static image like this. So that's a perfect time to use that angle. It really, you feel like the truck is moving down the hill quickly. So that is perfect. Also, so then Rick finds the secret laboratory that he and Bruce had built early on in the early issues. You can see those in the back in our previous episodes, if you go back and look at those. And I really like the stone shadows here. Very, very nice stuff. You've got just enough of the cracks and fittings and whatnot to read. It's just the black shadows that create the form. And it's very successful. It feels like steps. It feels like this is coming either towards us or that we could go into that and up those steps. So terrific shading there. Really, really works well. And then it took me a minute when I was first reading this. And I do, if you're not familiar, I do read the comics a number of times. I've read all these comics to begin with over the years. Then I go back and I read it again. Then I go back and I'll sometimes read it a second time. Then I go back and I take notes and I prepare notes for myself before the video. And it took me, again, maybe as I was making the notes, I'm like, boy, Rick Jones, that's a weird way to carry a person. Like, to put them on your back, bend over in half, and then walk. And I was like, why wouldn't you try to carry him over your shoulders or drag him? Like, what a weird method of transporting somebody. And then I got to this next page. And again, it took me a minute to go, how is he sticking to his back? And then I realized, oh, there's rope. It's super, super subtle. And if you're not looking at it kind of zoomed in, you might miss the fact that he tied Bruce to himself. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes more sense. I'm okay with that. He manages to get Bruce into the lab and set the settings and expose him to more gamma radiation to see if that works. And it does by transforming him into the Hulk. So this concept that the Hulk and Bruce are two different people, and what happens to one doesn't necessarily affect the other one. So in other words, if Bruce Banner broke his arm and he transformed into the Hulk wouldn't have a broken arm. Vice versa. If the Hulk was wounded, in theory, you transform back into Bruce and you're not wounded. That's kind of the concept here. The transformation phase is good, especially with the coloring here, this sort of middle piece. And you can really see the differences. His brow is starting to thicken. His jaw is getting larger. His hair is actually shrinking, which I think is kind of interesting. And you're starting to see the green coloration on his face. Then we have the Hulk, and theoretically he is transformed fully into the Hulk. And we're going to see on the next page here, as he starts to get up, this first panel's not too bad. And then we start to get into sort of some weird faces. Not necessarily the same. And I will say this about Jack Kirby. And I have been, in this series, I have been, pretty vocal about everybody that we talk about. Any artists in any comic series that I do, I'm talking about what's good, what's bad, and everything in between. And one of the things that I have noted about Jack Kirby, so first of all respect to the king. He truly created the modern comic visual language that we all still utilize today. A lot of the stuff that he revolutionized or that he created, we still utilize. However, that being said, Jack Kirby is not known for his consistency. What I mean by that is you can get a Hulk that looks completely different from not only page to page, but panel to panel sometimes. A lot of the bases are there. His Hulk is very thick, which is good. The head's shape and size is very good. But things like how big is the nose? How far do the eyebrows jut out? Things of that can definitely change. This looks more like what we've seen to date at a distance, but when we cut over here, this looks less hulkish. And I think there's a couple of things going on. One, again, I think it's that nose. The proportion of the nose to the dip, to the space between the bottom of the nose and the upper lip is more normal. Like it's a normal face, at least a normal face proportion. Whereas with the Hulk, typically you would draw a squatter, a shorter, wider nose, much longer space of the upper lip between the nose and the top of the lip. You would do, and then the eyes as well here are a little bit different. Now, here's what I'm going to chalk it up to, which we haven't talked about yet. He is now Bruce Banner's brain inside of the Hulk's body. And that is because he was, as Bruce Banner, he was shot in the head. There is a bullet lodged somewhere in his skull or brain or both. And he believes that is affecting his mind to allow Bruce Banner's brain to exist within the Hulk's body. But if he changes back to Bruce Banner, that bullet's going to kill him. So that's the concept there. And I'm assuming that maybe I'm going to give Jack the benefit of the doubt and say he's drawing the Hulk slightly different to reflect the mix of the two, right? You don't draw it as that savage monster Hulk, but have him talk like Bruce Banner. His face is somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to chalk it up to that as opposed to just inconsistency. So again, that's where, but I'm talking about it. You go from this panel, which this is a pretty, if you didn't have the giant eyebrow, if you didn't have the giant protruding caveman eyebrow, this would just be a very lantern-jawed big dude. But there's nothing other than the obviously the color, but the big caveman brow that screams monster. We cut over here, and now he does have the more broad, shorter nose and the much larger upper lip area. So it's like, again, is it just a lack of consistency, or is it, deliberate? And again, it could be deliberate, but if you're not consistent with your deliberateness, it just looks like a mistake, right? That's the nature of things. So anyway, that said, we cut over now to the leader. I've talked about this with other artists, specifically John Romita Sr. in my Spider-Man series. He does this a lot as well, where we'll have a whole page, and then the last panel or two, we change settings, and there's no visual transition. There's no link between the two that would make sense. It's just we go from the Hulk and Rick Jones to now the leader talking to, other nations. I don't like that. I'd much rather have scene changes happen when you turn the page, unless there is a visual cue between the two. Like if the Hulk was on a video screen talking to someone, and then, like, let's say for whatever reason, he's somehow talking to the president of the United States on a video screen, and then you cut and the leader is talking to, enemies of the United States on a video screen. That's a visual transition that makes sense. This here is nothing. It's just, we need to cut, the scene is over, and we're going to go to the other scene. Now, I'll give it a pass because this book only has 13 pages of story. So I'm not counting the ads and stuff like that. So the Hulk only has 13 pages. If you only have 13 pages to work with, you don't have time to go, let me sacrifice some real estate here. I'll throw in some more stuff with Rick and the Hulk, and we'll go to the leader on the next page. You don't have that kind of time. So the leader here, my notes as I put were, if you don't succeed, try again. And for this guy who's supposed to be a super genius, he has one freaking idea. So if you've been following along, the leader has created this sort of plastic robot. So it can't be broken. It can't be punched out even by the Hulk. It can't be destroyed by gunfire. It's because it's like this rubbery plastic. Imagine like a giant pink eraser, but it's in the shape of a person and is completely under control by the leader. So again, I'm thinking of it as like a giant rubber robot. So he started out with one human sized. That didn't work. So he went with a few, more, again, human sized. That didn't work. He tried a bunch human size. That didn't work. He tried a ton of them shrunk to like micro size. And then he expanded them. And that sort of worked. But eventually that, didn't work long term, obviously. He does not have the Hulk. He does not have the Absorbatron, which was the device he was trying to steal. So now he's like, okay, well, you've gone through the checklist here. One, many, a whole bunch, itty bitty ones. Well, let's try a giant one. So now he's going to do a giant humanoid, as he calls it. And I'm like, this guy is a one-trick pony. He has one freaking idea, and he just keeps running it into the dirt. I don't understand. Okay. So I do like the large panels, which is important when you have something like this, where it's a giant figure. Think of the X-Men with their Sentinel robots, Galactus from the Fantastic Four, stuff like that. You want to have enough real estate that you can draw that creature, creation, whatever it is, very large, and put small things around it for scale. And that's exactly what we have here. We have the planes help identify us with the scale of this thing. We have it crushing rocks in front and even next to the mountain there. So overall, it's definitely the large panels give us enough room to establish the scale. This thing is as tall as a mountain. This low angle shot looking up at the bottom of the foot really helps to put us, the viewer, into the scene, right? What would it be like if you were on the ground, the planes are flying over, this thing is crushing rocks as it's stepping right towards you? That's the feeling that we're getting here. And that's a nice, again, visual language, visual approach to give us an idea of the scale and maybe the danger of this giant object, this giant robot thing. So very nice angle there, nice work. Stuff all looks great. Yeah, this really emphasizes that height very, very well. So Bruce has come up with a way to stay as the Hulk at least for 48 hours. So every 48 hours, he's going to have to ingest some chemicals, which will help him stay the Hulk so that he doesn't die from this bullet wound. So he wants to go see Betty one last time. And who, of course, is there wasting no time to move in, but is everybody's least favorite weasel, Glenn Talbot. So this guy, the second he arrived on base, he started putting the moves on Betty, even though she was openly professing her love for Bruce Banner. And this guy was like, what are you talking about? You give me a chance. You'll love me. And now she's come to tell her, Bruce is dead, and he was responsible because he was leading the soldiers' charge and was operating on shoot to kill orders. And so it's like, oh, that guy that you were super in love with? Well, I'm responsible for him getting shot and killed, but just love me. It's fine. You'll love me, right? You won't, you won't reject me. You couldn't possibly be harbor any ill feelings toward me who killed the man you love. Oh, logic. So then they get the call about this giant robot coming. This is very nice, bold outline around Talbot's face here in this panel. I do like that. I'm a big fan of that. I use it in my own art a lot when I have figures that are closer to us. Same with like the Hulk here, as we're framing, him listening through the window. I want to use a very large, bold outline around the shape of the figures that are closer, and then a slightly thinner outline as we back away. And that helps sell that idea of depth. Something that's closer is going to be more clear. It's going to have more defined edges. The further away, the blurrier it gets, right? So that's how we're doing it there. Nice lighting on the humanoid down here in the corner as they're shooting artillery at it. Very nice stuff. This is awesome. We're definitely going to zoom in on this. This is phenomenal. And this is straight out of, to me, I was like, this is straight out of the Fantastic Four. This is Galactus walking through, New York and people scrambling around. This time they're soldiers, but things getting demolished, tanks getting crushed, artillery getting crushed, soldiers, some are knocked down, some are running, some are shooting. This is a phenomenal piece, and again, really helps to emphasize the scale of this giant robot. So terrific stuff there. Really like it. And like I said, this, to me feels right in Jack Kirby's wheelhouse. Galactus, the Celestials, all that kind of stuff. Those giant figures that he drew, perfect, and just really playing up to his strength. The army shoots missiles as the Hulk is going to try to help as well, and of course they get in each other's way. This is very nice. So there's missiles are shot, and then we are put in almost a point of view of the missile. And so this is using a form of perspective that is called 1-point perspective. What I mean by that is if you were to take the lines of this exhaust coming out of the missile and you continued to extend those out further up, eventually they're going to cross and connect at a point. That is what is referred to as the vanishing point. That is where those lines fade to the distance, where they're so far away we can't see the separation between them anymore. That is 1-point perspective, and that's a great job of using it here because it funnels our eyes to that image. It's not coming in from the side, it's not coming in from the top or bottom. Our eyes are pulled directly to this center because of these parallel lines. I say that right. In theory, they're parallel. They look like they are coming together in a point, again, because of the perspective, right? And takes us right to that view of this thing turning over its shoulder, looking at the missile coming. Awesome stuff. Really nice use of perspective there. No need to get super complicated. I mentioned there's 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective. All you're doing is adding multiple vantage points so that different lines vanish in different directions. This, keep it simple. 1 point, zoop, there we go. Perfect. The Hulk gets in the way, accidentally deflects the missile, and gets grabbed by the humanoid. And then here he goes, and he's getting mad, and he's going to break out. These are some weird Hulk faces. This one's not quite as bad, but again, consistency, right? So now the eyebrows are very thick, the mouth is very wide, even the nose is fairly wide, whereas in that other drawing it was more angular. So we're, again, just not seeing the consistency. This is maybe more of a regular Hulk face, pretty close to it. And then this one is pretty tough. We know what he's trying to do with the head tipped back. I talk about this a lot in all my videos. This is probably the hardest, or one of the hardest angles to draw a human face at and get it right, is a head tipped backwards like this. It changes the entire proportions of the face. The nose shrinks, the ears appear to move down, the chin is much bigger, everything gets out of whack, and it's very hard to draw. But what we do have here, which I want to point out, is this is, I believe, the first time we have the Hulk say, "The madder I get, the stronger I get," which of course is a clear piece of Hulk lore that goes on forever, right? Which is the madder the Hulk gets, the stronger he gets, and there's no limit to his anger, and there's no limit to his strength. So we're seeing that there for the first time, and then he escapes. This is very nice. This is good, and this is what I'm talking about here. This is where the face is tipped back, and this is handled very, very well. We see the underside of the chin. Underneath that eyebrow, the nose is brought up a little bit, and we can see the bottom side of it because you're tipping back. So that part is very good. The forehead is very small, so it appears like your hairline comes down because, again, tipping back, so everything is sort of shrunk with the perspective, and then the ears placed there. But that's a really, really good example of that angle of a human face, or Hulk face, I guess. And then the anatomy overall very good as well. Got those great big Kirby feet, very squared off toes, squared off fingers. That is, again, a hallmark of the Jack Kirby style. Short, thick legs, thick chest. The Hulk is 100% right up his alley as far as the way that he tends to draw human proportions, right? This is really nice, and the General Ross is, we've seen the Hulk again. Of course, even though the Hulk is, they've literally watched it fight this pink robot and escape. The two of them must be in league, because heaven forbid. But this is nice. Again, a lot of drama in the upshot, and there's a lot of them here. This is slightly up, so we've got that artillery pointed up, and at us. So again, we've got it in foreshortening coming towards us, so it's larger at the front, smaller at the bottom. The pose of General Ross, shaking his fists, very Ahab, Moby Dick kind of a thing, right? Which that's the relationship between General Ross and the Hulk, I think is great. And yeah, really good facial expression on General Ross. This is a really nice panel here. We've got more of that textured shading on the soldier's helmet, which works out really, really well. They shoot a bunch of missiles, which do not work. However, there's a big explosion, and I liked the motion lines from the rocks using the rubble and even the flapping of the rips in the Hulk's pants to show that concussive force blowing past him as he's kind of crouching behind this rock here for protection. It really helps sell that energy. And as I mentioned before, it brings our eye from left to right. So it takes our eye from this panel to the next panel naturally, which is exactly what you want as you're crafting your pages. So that's a really nice tip there. Again, more traditional. Sorry, it's underneath me. Oops. Let's scroll over here. Where am I? Here we go. Okay. More traditional Hulk face. Again, wide eyes, wide shorter nose, big square head. Much more traditional Hulk face. But nice. This is a down shot. So we've talked about up shots before where we're low looking up. This would be us in the air looking straight down at the Hulk like we are the giant robot. So again, using your angle to put the reader into the position of your figures, whether that's the giant humanoid robot, it's the Hulk himself, it's bystanders, whatever. That's always a great thing to do whenever you can do it. It just helps immerse the reader into the imagery. The shadow here is what sells this. If you do not have this hard shadow below the Hulk, it's going to be very hard to tell what's going on. And so that is exactly perfect. So that works extremely well. And I do really love the large, thick musculature. The Hulk is not, in later years, even the Hulk that I draw tends to be more defined in terms of his musculature, almost like giant bodybuilder. Whereas here, he's much more of just a massive, thick, muscled character than a strict, no fat defined bodybuilder. The missiles have stunned the thing but not stopped it, so the Hulk's going to continue his attack. However, the military isn't going to stop either, so they have brought out their biggest missile they have that they call the Sunday Punch missile, which conveniently, not only do they call it that, it's written on the side of this ridiculous transport device that they have. This is crazy. And then again, such iconic, classic Kirby lines. It's a missile. Does it need this weird little fin? It's not a rocket. Nobody's piloting it. What is this thing on top? Just have it be a solid, single tube for rocket fuel with a on the end. But instead, this thing, it's got panels and different shapes. It's got almost like I said, fins and pieces and connections and this weird sort of tube that goes up and down. I mean, it's just it's as Kirby-esque. And if you're in real life, if you're creating something that's going to fly off and explode, who cares? Make it as simple as possible because you're going to destroy it. It's the nature of what it is. So yeah, but that's just Jack, and that is Jack Kirby technology, and you cannot miss it. You cannot confuse it for anybody else. This is 100% Kirby creation. There we go. They're going to shoot this giant missile, but Rick, again, always going to help. He's got to go try to help. So Rick runs off, and there we go. And that is the cliffhanger and the end of the book. So we're going to jump back over to the desk, and we're going to wrap everything up here. Well, an interesting story in Tales to Astonish number 70. We are heading into some very interesting territory. Things that we take for granted about the character of the Hulk are really starting to solidify. The deal with anger increases his strength. The fact that what happens physically to the Hulk or to Bruce Banner doesn't necessarily translate back and forth. They're really very much almost two individuals sort of stuck together. So that's kind of interesting. We've seen through this most recent several issues, a return of Rick Jones. Rick Jones had kind of disappeared for a while. He had been primarily focused in the Avengers books and is now back, obviously, very solidly here with Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And so we're going to have to figure out how do we get out of this? And we know he does. I mean, spoiler alert, he does not stay in the form of the Hulk forever. So Bruce Banner is going to return. How is he going to explain how he's not dead? That will be very interesting. So that's what we've got. There's some action here. There's some good stuff. There's some classic Kirby-isms, on display. So overall, in terms of a rating, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty solid. There's a few things. I'd love to see more consistency in the Hulk face. I think that's been a problem throughout this entire series, and maybe that's part of the issue of why he's part of a book like this of Tales to Astonish instead of still in his own Incredible Hulk series. Maybe people just didn't respond to the inconsistencies of the look. I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't last forever. But yeah, overall, pretty good issue. And I liked it. And I hope you enjoyed it too. If you haven't seen this, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that this may be the first time you're seeing this issue. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed going over it with you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Get yourself in the running for some free artwork. Get us to 1,000 subscribers as fast as you can. And then we can draw winners from the subscriber list and get that artwork out to you. So thank you so much. And I'll see you here next week with more Incredible Hulk. Thanks.